Uncertainty did not suddenly take hold in 2017. The future has always been unknown. But today's breed of uncertainty feels distinctly different. Two unique characteristics set it apart. The volume of information we receive and the pace at which that information changes makes it harder to identify what is relevant and what is reliable.
There's no doubt that the proliferation of information has sped way ahead of human beings' bandwidth and ability to deal with that information. If you're in a blizzard and you feel lost and disorientated, you're going to panic, perhaps you're going to feel angry, and perhaps you're going to reflex back to some certain things that you feel you can rely on.
The problem is that what we try and do is give people simple answers, and that means that when you then turn around and say, actually things are more complicated than that, they understandably do not react well. Wanting dearly, like some kind of certain answer, and then living with uncertainty is something that we're going to have to battle through as a species, because you begin to see the implications of that tug of war in the political sphere, right? We're looking at strongman politics where people have very certain answers.
The filters we have traditionally relied on to identify trustworthy information have been called into question.
We'll probably end up with more trust probably slipping towards the social channels as opposed to the mainstream channels. So if you said to me, which news brand do you trust? I don't trust any, actually. And I'm in the media.
The strange thing about the breakdown in trust is that, of course, people have to trust something. So you don't end up in a situation where everybody is a cynic and no one does anything and no one buys anything. It's just that they put their faith in different things. And I think the things that we put faith in really are the things that we don't think about, the things that we take for granted.
We are facing profound change and uncertainty across all of our horizons, both near and far. Our environment, our political structures, our economy, our social networks, our health, our identity. As a result, we have fewer spaces of certainty to take refuge in. We face uncertainty everywhere we turn. Uncertainty speaks to the most fundamental human fear, fear of the unknown. As humans, we are hardwired to seek certainty.
One of the questions science asks is, why do humans have such big brains? And one idea is, a more recent one, is that we have these large brains in order to predict the future.
It's tricky because not a lot is known about the mind, so even the process of doing that is a bit of an act of uncertainty, that you never quite know what people are thinking. A lot of the time we don't even know what we're thinking ourselves. A little bit of insight into what's going on up here can help you to make sense of what's going on out there.
Evolutionary theory says is that we prefer, or we like to be in environments that are predictable and that we know are safe. The fact that when you encounter something new, or when you encounter something repeatedly, anything, the more often you encounter it, the more positive your attitude towards that object gets. It's the basic principle of advertising. Through repetition, you develop a positive attitude. The repetition tells you that this is always the same and that it is predictable. And predictability is pleasant because you know what's going to happen. The other side is basically anything that is not predictable might potentially eat you. That's basically the sort of logic behind it. It's obviously not so dramatic, but that's how it works.
Escape. We flee to a more predictable, more familiar, or more comforting environment. Arm. We tool ourselves up to take back control. Ignore. We deny the change and carry on as normal. DDB and Flamingo see 6 key strategies for turning uncertainty to advantage.
The more the brands have a deep territory in patrimony and history and I would say universal appeal, the more they can endure the test of times. Those who go through this period and get stronger and stronger over time all have a very strong patrimony, deep values. Whatever they do, they remain very, very strong.
It probably will depend very strongly on the product itself. So there are certain products which live, which part of the brand identity is, we never change, we are always the same. And then there are other brands, probably fashion is the most obvious one, which are based on the idea that they're never the same, or that they sort of, vary a theme or like a certain consistency within a certain parameters. And even within that, you have sort of brands which always do the same thing.
When the short term is so unstable, there is greater comfort and stability in the long-term view. Brands that speak to a sense of permanence and enduring value are more likely to weather the storm.
So out of mountaineering, the way we manage uncertainty, you have two objectives, always. The summit, coming home alive. And then you have a plan, a strategy of how you're going to manage those two things and get those two things to stay aligned right through the project. But the strategy is not your truth. It's simply your best hope. And what you have to do is be thoroughly flexible on the mountain about how you are executing the strategy.
In times of uncertainty, the improvisers tend to do well, but you can prepare to be a good improviser. It's not just something that happens. You can learn techniques for responding well, paying attention to cues in your environment, being agile and lean in the way that you can respond. It's a bit like DJing, I suppose. It's like a DJ does not prepare for a set by planning out every single record they're going to play. They know their material, show up, and then figure out what the crowd is into. And so that's how you prepare for uncertainty.
What seems really important for leaders of businesses, I think, is to make sure you have a clear sense of direction as opposed to just chasing targets the whole time. If you know what you're there and what your business is there to do, that gives you that sense of direction. The targets are just a sort of ancillary thing that pop up every quarter if you're doing your job properly.
The younger generations probably describe it more as authenticity within the world in general. It's real and authentic, and it might be wrong. We don't care whether it's wrong or right. What we care about is someone makes 12 promises and they deliver them, and that they're very real. So they're on social media and they're responding to things, and they are responding to things. It's not a team of people responding to things. And that's a different world that we live in my eyes.
Because we have a lot of data, and that's one of the benefits of the world we're in. What businesses have to do is ask questions of the data, and then you need people with knowledge of how to analyze data to go in and, sometimes even if the data is structured, restructure it to answer that particular question.